Hi, Mark Gallucci, Global Training Manager with Digital Control Incorporated. This video, we're going to go over the F5 calibration sequence. So a couple of things that I want to talk about before we begin the actual calibration. The global icon number that is stamped in all transmitters. The number on this transmitter is number 1. I need to have a matching number 1 in my handheld receiver. So this global icon number is particularly important for users outside of the United States. Notice the matching global icon numbers. The receiver, you'll find it on the splash screen in the upper right corner, and the transmitter, you'll find it stamped in the stainless battery compartment. The other thing you need to be aware of is the environment you're calibrating in. I have already done a background check for signal interference. What I mean by that, I turned on my handheld receiver and I walked the area. I did that without putting batteries in the transmitter, so any signal that picks up, that is what we call background noise or electrical interference. We are in a clean area. You'll also notice there's no big bodies of metal around here. I don't have a drill next to me. I don't have an automobile. I'm not on top of concrete where there's going to be rebar in the ground. We are clean both of active and passive interference. The last thing before we calibrate, we want to make sure that the handheld receiver is set to pick up the appropriate transmitter and its frequency. So I've already set the handheld receiver to pick up an F5 transmitter, a 1912 to be exact, and I've set it to pick up the 19 kilohertz signal. So the handheld receiver is ready to go. I'm now going to turn on my transmitter by loading the batteries in it. Got my batteries. Now the 1912, if I point it up, I'm going to start it up in the higher of the two frequencies, in this case 19. I'm going to point that to the sky, tighten the battery, and now I'm going to go put it into the housing, which we have laying on the ground right over here. If you want to track your transmitter to housing, you better calibrate in the housing. So yes, you do calibrate always with a transmitter in the housing. So now I'm going to begin the calibration sequence. We're going to the main menu. I'm going to bump it a couple times to the right to get to the calibration menu. I've got it highlighted. I'll click the trigger. I have two options. I can do a 1-point calibration or I can do a 2-point calibration. This video is only going to discuss the 1-point, and that is a calibration you're going to do 99.9% of the time. So I've got that 1-point calibration highlighted. I'm going to click the trigger. Now I get a very nice graphic illustrating the relationship between the handheld receiver and the transmitter housing. It's exactly 120 inches from the inside edge to the middle slot. Now metric users, you'll be using 3 meters. So we're going to begin it. I'm in the right position. The green check on the display is highlighted. I'm going to click the trigger. Right now, it's measuring signal, measuring signal, measuring signal. I just heard a series of beeps letting me know I had a good calibration. So all you're doing at calibration is you're converting X many counts or X many points of signal to a number that we are familiar with. We all know what 120 inches are, or metric users know what 3 meters are. We're converting signal strength to a number we are familiar with. That is all you're doing at calibration. So it's really imperative that you make sure you are in a clean environment and that you're calibrating exactly at the 120 inches. Had I calibrated at 5 foot, it would have said 120 inches. Had I calibrated at 4.5 meters, it would have said 3 meters. Those numbers that are default setting. So again, make sure you are properly set up. So I've calibrated it. I always write down my signal strength. I want to know what kind of signal this specific transmitter puts out at my calibration distance. Right now I've got 565 counts of signal. I'm going to go ahead and write that down. Knowing that number can really help out down the road should you need some troubleshooting help. Probably going to be one of the first questions you're asked should you ever call our helpline to talk to one of our technicians. Write down your signal strength. So I've calibrated it. I need to double check this calibration. Like I said, it will always say 120 inches or 3 meters. I'm going to go ahead and move this in. I'm going to move it into 5 foot. I can move it into any distance I want, but I'll just pick 5 foot. Spot on 5 foot, hold the trigger. 60 inches. Great. I'm very happy. I'll even move it out one more time. I'll do a triple check, in fact. I'm going to go out to 15 foot. Put it on it, squeeze the trigger to get the depth. 180 inches. So we've calibrated it in a clean environment, and we've double checked it. So I feel very comfortable about going underground with this. One more thing I'd like to discuss. How often should you calibrate? Well, the real answer, what DC always says, only when necessary. Can you calibrate every day? Yes, of course you can. But you really run the risk of calibrating in a dirty environment. Many users, they bypass that step of sweeping the area to make sure they're in a clean environment. Again, if you calibrate in a dirty environment, you will have a dirty calibration. We strongly recommend that you check it. Check your calibration every single time you go underground.